Dr. G here, right? Answering questions. We're tackling digital media literacy topics across 3 different books in week 3, and wow, students are bringing it with their questions. And let's not delay. Let's get into some feedback from May. May comments in the book Writing for the 21st Century. It states that you have to fact check websites and look for secondary websites. Would it be safe to say that almost everything you read on the internet is in some way misleading and opinion based? No, not necessarily. Okay, so I'm going to kind of comment on this as we go. Not necessarily. That is the way it seems. Perhaps your algorithms, right, are making it seem so. And it seems that it is getting harder and harder to find the truth. Okay, yes. And here is a reason why. So let me help explain why it is getting harder. Because some people, right, there are people in the business of misleading you. That's big business for some people. Some people make a killing creating not just creating intentionally false news. That's its own thing. That's kind of a niche area. What I'm talking about is people that are so kind of overtly reliant upon just emotionally driven language. They know how to stir the pot, right? That makes sense. Op-eds can take on many forms, and I think some of them that do it the best can easily mislead audiences of all kinds, in all directions. It is almost like the game telephone. Everyone has their own interpretation of the truth. Ooh, love the connections that May is making here. Do we all remember this game, Telephone? It's getting harder and harder, right, for students to. They know the game, but they may not know the name because of how they don't know what a telephone is, but they know what the game is, where you pass the word around in someone's ear and it comes back around. And is it going to stay the same or not? There's some of that. That's not really an issue in journalism proper, though. Like I do want to clarify, right? Demystify that. If it's something we think happens, like a source says one thing and then a journalist takes it to their editor and becomes something else, and then the editor takes it to the lead writer and it becomes something else, then it gets broadcast on there and it's something else. That kind of stuff doesn't happen as much. In fact, a lot of it gets cleared up today because we have so many digital technologies at our disposal. So digital recorders all the time. This helps us fact check, not just fact check the source, fact check the information we received. If you're recording it accurately the first time, then you're sort of sharing it, regurgitating it accurately later on. And then of course context matters. Now, sometimes we do see quotes taken out, right? Quotes taken out of context. And that can be a slippery slope. It's like a game of telephone, yeah? Because let's just think about texting. That's a prime example. And I know we can all relate to this at some point. When you receive a text and you read it in the wrong voice, right? And the sender had a different intent behind it than the way you interpreted it. And it creates a skirmish, right? You're miscommunicating. You're arguing. This makes me think of last week's lecture notes and the question about exclamation points. Maybe that was week 1. And how exclamation points are one of the most misused pieces of punctuation because that's shouting. We're shouting, and we don't need to be shouting when we're communicating. We want to be clear, control communicators. This week, we are working on false news, fake news. Who is to say that any information is correct? Okay, careful. On this line of thinking, we can easily get off in the weeds, right? Where it's like, who's to say anything is true? What is reality? And I do remember May's previous comments about what is existence? Are we existing or not? That opened up a great response there. But I would say this: we have processes such as checks and balances, right? Processes of verification. Some things can be verified, right? Just like scientific testing. You can be tested to see if you have X virus, or maybe a disease, or if you're clear of something. We can test for stuff. Information can be tested in certain ways. There is also room to recognize that we, in a society, in a civic democracy, we have legal facts. Okay, so we can discern facts based on the legal letter of the law. And some of our laws are clearly intentionally open coded, meaning there's room for interpretation. That assumes that intelligent, wise, and ethical lawmakers and kind of judicial parties and whoever are acting in an appropriate manner to make those calls. In addition to legal facts, there is scientific facts. Okay, so there are methods of discerning information. It's a great time. Pull up a video and recap the old scientific method, right? And what that process represents. In a couple of our classes, we introduce some basic methods of research gathering and maybe research reporting. And those are important because good research, quality research, is going to follow very ethical guidelines of toward an accurate interpretation of whatever the topic or thesis or research question is. So hopefully that can make us feel a little bit better about the perilous times that we sometimes feel we're in, especially when it comes to the politics around election time. And especially problematic area. Yes. It is becoming hard to believe, final comment here, what is right or what is wrong on the internet. And so, with regards to the political season, I think it's important to be objectively critical of both of the same major parties or candidates or their claims. And this is our duty as citizens in terms of practicing good ethics ourselves and in a pursuit of accuracy. And the barometer isn't they're right because I agree with them, or this politician's right because that's already what I thought, and they're just saying they're giving me a sense of, that's I think that a lot. We want to learn how to step back and objectively take in what they're saying. What is the likelihood they are, serious or authentic? Where are they coming from in a place of experience? How likely are they to follow through with claims about what they suggest they're capable of doing or willing to do for constituents? All of these factors are questions we should take into consideration as active voters. It's, if you're unfamiliar with certain candidates for certain roles, and I'm talking minor stuff, you get in that voting box and you think, all right, I'm just going to vote for, my state senator and, president. And then all of a sudden there's a list of, 25, 30 items. I would not vote, right? On items that you have zero familiarity with. You know what? With our digital technologies today, guess what? Look it up real quick. If you're unfamiliar, but also do the research in advance. Talk about this is the threshold of becoming an informed voter. Look up the issues in advance. Talk about the issues. You don't have to get all heated, right? Like at the Thanksgiving table with, Uncle Stranger, but find that in. And I'll tell you what, I think a lot of our comments, we've been reconditioned by social media to be really hard on news outlets and news channels. But let me pause and just make a local commentary here, right? My 2 cents. While some of our national cable news does get into some issues, some problems with how they maybe lean one way or the other ideologically, and a couple of them do. I find our local news in a very conservative state quite objective, right? And not at all in the business of just trying to slant things. I think our local news coverage is very vanilla. And you know what? That's a good thing. That's following pretty close journalistic ethics. They're being objective. We should be objective too. We should be objective as voters. And that's one reason why it can be dangerous to do the old like party line vote. Well, that makes no sense. You're right. In a certain logic, that's kind of casting blind faith in a system that maybe we don't fully understand. And so, you know what, Lee, it's better probably ethically for us to leave it blank if we don't understand it at all. But again, that's a quick take. That's my ethical take. That's my call for objectivity, which in no way is a bad thing. Okay, a couple of questions from Stephanie. And as we move along here, looking at the writing well and dispenser text, why is it of importance to find out the facts versus an opinion when doing research? Are you baiting me, Stephanie? I think I've been speaking to this already, so that'll help me keep it brief. But the first thing we can start with, opinions can be wrong, right? Facts, by definition, would be more accurate or correct, like in an agreed upon way. But opinions can be wrong. Opinions can mislead truth. And opinions can be right on. They can be spot on, right? This is not a dig at opinions, but we need to understand the value and difference between opinions and facts. The danger with and the creation of so much distrust in media both points at opinions and uses opinions to point at opinions, right? It's about that incendiary, emotional hot takes that we're getting out of not just cable news, but all this viral media, the stuff that's getting trapped into our algorithms on social media. This constant kind of, I use the term vitriol to describe how we're drawn to these sensationalist gotcha op-eds, right? Op-ed is short for opinion editorial. And that's dangerous, especially in a research context, unless you're writing about that sort of thing. But opinions can be, they are highly subjective, and they're often purely sensationalist, increasingly. Not, traditionally the great op-eds are offered, in like the Sunday New York Times or, maybe like the Washington Post or whatever. And, but any newspaper can have a highly qualified op-ed. I see a lot of academics writing op-eds in our most centrist, neutral, national newspaper, USA Today, more and more, increasingly. It's very interesting. But op-eds aren't a bad thing, but we need to understand the difference between something is a researched and vetted story, objective news versus, an opinion piece, which a good op-ed should be from an informed person, not just someone with a hot take, someone that has clear authority on a subject. All right. Question. What is the contemporary meaning of convergence? Well, let's find a definition, is what I would say. And so Stephanie's asking from the pop culture text. First of all, Convergence Culture is a very popular book by Henry Jenkins. Name sound familiar. It's one of the co-authors of our Spreadable Media text. Yeah. And so Henry Jenkins, certainly not his first book, definitely not his last either. I think he's written, 20-something books now, and, upwards of 30, but Convergence Culture is one of the extremely popular books in the mid 2000s, early 2000s, and he's wrestling with his ideas of media coming together. But I did look, in fact, in the pop culture text, primed by a page number you supplied. I looked in the glossary, in fact, on page, which version? 352 of the 4th edition, Stephanie, and here's what I got. Sure enough, at the top, convergence. The definition from Denise is the process by which formerly separate technologies and media industries, such as television and the telephone, are brought together by a common technological base e.g. digitization, or a common industrial strategy? I think that's an excellent definition. It suits our purposes for sure. And then final question, real quick question from Stephanie. I love that you sent me down the wormhole this week. Definitely can tell you're picking up on the text, kind of chewing on it, reading those. The pop culture text is such a source for us. I really hope everyone's taking the time to go through those chapters, finding. I know there's areas in there that appeals potentially to everyone, so I hope you're taking time to find that. But Stephanie asks, Bart gave new meaning for what word? And so we're talking about Roland Barthes or Roland Barthes. Several, if we're going high culture or low culture on pronunciation, but Roland Barthes gave new meaning for what word? And normally I don't like the Jeopardy style question because it's putting too much on the question respondent there. But you did give me a page number, so I was so curious. It's as if you knew that I have a soft spot for Barthes. I went a digging. So in 270, and this is when I started comparing editions. The third edition, let me read this excerpt. Let me start at the top of the paragraph. Okay. MASH PD culture, however, is really not a threat to serious culture. Medicine or other sciences are too important to us and to the industries set up around them to become totally enmeshed in a popularization puree. This type of culture will always exist and can be called simply serious culture. The other forms of culture are short-lived, we're talking about more like pop culture, and more as the online world requires constant innovation, lending validity to Barthes' notion of neomania. That would be the term, the answer to your question, neomania. Neomania, giving it new meaning. Barthes coined the term to refer to, quote, and this was all quote, the constant craving for new things, new spectacles, new fads, new celebrities, and so on. A state of mind fueled by advertising, end quote. Oh, that's a great term. Oh, I want to immediately plug that term in somewhere. Neomania. I like it. We're acquiring this language here. And you know what? That even got me thinking, looking that up, reading that excerpt, it was referencing, I don't know if we noticed this, Bart's work from 1957. What? And I thought, wait a minute, which of his works was that? And I looked it up in the, in the back, in the, the old references page. And sure enough, it was his most famous work, a collected work of his many ruminations, his kind of semiotic philosophies or ponderings. And it's a book titled Mythologies, which of course I have a copy of. And so got some old tabbies here with notes and whatnot. And I went to dig in. I found myself standing here reading it for several minutes, looking for some that key section on neomania, and realized I'm going to get trapped in a time loop if I'm not careful. So neomania, great term. Thank you for that, and thank you for those questions. We'll take a break and come back and answer some more as we move along.